Hello and welcome to Talk Scottish Football. If you are a regular viewer on the channel, you might realise that Specs isn't here.
He isn't here, thank the Lord for that. But
the last time he was out doing orienteering, he was looking for
Eddie Howe. He couldn't find him, so now he's out looking for French fullbacks, I'm led to believe, so I don't know if we'll find them.
But we're here in the beautiful G4 podcast studio. This podcast comes to you in association with G4 Claims. All the links in the description. We've got an upgrade though today, David, don't we?
Yes.
We really do.
I mean, we've got Ryan, who thinks he's Mr. Celtic, to someone who used to be a Celtic youth, you know, currently playing with Airdrie, you know, and also doing bits on the side, absolute bits on the side.
Yes, we've got Sam Wardrop. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Honoured to be here, first guest in your studio.
Yeah.
It's looking very good.
What are you saying? Do you like it?
It's beautiful. It's actually very, very fancy. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
We've got that in the ceiling as well, see that?
What's that?
It's like a wee football pitch in case you want to kick a bit. In case you want to show us some of your
I was
techniques.
going to say that's like Dumbarton's pitch, to be honest with you. I'm no longer there, I can't slag them like that.
Out the door 5 minutes, he's standing there.
How are we doing today anyway, Sam? Because, you know, I've noticed since I stumbled across you on TikTok, your TikTok video started following you. Every morning I wake up ready to seize the day. Go on Instagram for a quick check. Sam's already gym session, he's reading books, he's coaching. How do you find the energy for it all, mate?
To be honest with you, it's just kind of the way I am. It's probably happened more so since I left full-time football, just to keep me focused and give me a kind of change of direction, purpose, that kind of thing. But as you said, for me, I like posting the videos and stuff on TikTok. I feel like a lot of people are getting inspired and motivated from it, and I love having that impact on people. I get messages constantly from people telling me I'm helping them out, and to me I just think to myself, if I can just share a wee bit of what I do that makes me feel good, maybe other people can use that as well. I think that's pretty cool that you can have that reach on social media.
I was going to get into that a wee bit later, the TikTok stuff and social media as a whole, but since you brought it up, what kind of made you start that? Start doing the TikToks, and obviously you're doing your stuff on Instagram, it says you're going to start YouTube as well.
Yeah. So basically, it was my sister. My wee sister's 15, 16, so obviously I feel like that age are more in touch with what's kind of the in thing in terms of social media and stuff like that. She was like, you need to start posting TikToks. So I did, and they weren't football related, and they were terrible. They were awful. And if you scroll far enough back,
and stuff.
Not quite, but there were some real bad videos right at the start. And it was maybe took me about 6 months to kind of realise that I need to stop posting these videos and post stuff more football related, because that's when they started to kind of reach, you know, hundreds of thousands of people. And I was like, right, there's something there. And I was just literally sharing things I've learned. So yeah, my sister basically kicked me off on the social media side of things. And just as it's grown, I feel like YouTube's a good place to get into as well. I think a lot of people have been messaging me, because obviously TikTok's only minute-long videos, whereas YouTube you can go a bit more in-depth and stuff like that. So that's how it started, and it's going really well. I'm loving it.
They are brilliant wee videos, isn't it?
TikTok's a place to be.
I love it.
Have you two taken anything?
Well, he's got Dev's quite good at TikTok. Oh, on board for your videos.
For the videos.
I mean, looking at me probably not, I would say, but no. Listen, I mean, TikTok is obviously it's a big thing, and Dev's class at it. You're really good at it. But we don't do enough for the podcast. But you're right. It's interesting because obviously you've got the short form videos on TikTok, 30-second clips or whatever. But yeah, YouTube can be really good for you. I can see this now because people love that sort of insight, especially into the football stuff. People love an insight into kind of what it's like to be a footballer, like a good level and stuff. I mean, the ones I've saw, like the first one I saw for me was I think it was to be like your pre-match preparation and all that carry on. People love that kind of stuff, man. Yeah, and as you said, if you can get your message out that way, it's perfect.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I think people just like that kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you get loads of kind of stuff, videos that go out from clubs, official things, and you know, Netflix docs and stuff. But that kind of raw behind the scenes footage, you don't really have access to that, especially with footballers. I think like it's a bubble a lot of the time. You don't really get to see what goes on inside the kind of inner workings of a football player's life, or what goes on really at the club. So I think it is really interesting for young players to see that kind of thing.
And for footballers as well, a big criticism of modern footballers is that they don't have personalities. You don't hear much about them like you would do back in the day. But social media is the one where you can do that if you do it properly, you know. And that's kind of the perfect example. I mean, there's probably not enough footballers doing that kind of stuff. Because
the one I've seen recently is Ben Foster.
Exactly, yeah.
He something you've seen yourself?
Well, he was. And basically, a few of my mates as well would say, like, you need to start doing. You should take a look at this guy. I think he's called the cycling goalkeeper. I think he was actually posting cycling videos initially.
Yeah, a lot of them are
and
cycling.
Then it's all. But to be fair, the access that he's he's kind of given is pretty incredible. I think that's why he's kind of getting this massive reach, because he's showing you what's going on, you know, in lead up to games and stuff like that. I feel like maybe he's earned the right to do that.
Yeah,
I feel like if I walked into the Airdrie dressing room with the GoPro, I think boys would be like, Sam, stop.
Have a word of yourself, son.
He's also lucky the club are letting him do it, because you can see a lot of clubs being funny about stuff like that. Like, do you remember the one with the GoPro in the goal and somebody celebrated?
Yeah.
I went straight to the GoPro. It's brilliant. But
exactly.
that stuff is brilliant.
What I would say as well is, like, for other football players, or I actually saw, funnily enough, I saw Tony Watt started on the TikTok. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I seen him as well. What was it? He
went
in and he was getting somebody stick one of his English teammates. That was one of the TikToks. He was on the physio table and he's in getting him a wee bit of stick after England bowed out in the Euros on penalties. But
what I think is, I think more players should have the confidence to kind of do things like that, because don't get me wrong, you do get a slagging for it probably initially, but once you kind of start posting things, like, people get over, your teammates go over it, and they end up enjoying it. Because if you're doing it for a good cause, then I think, why not? I've seen a few players do it, and I think more should do it.
The thing is, I mean, there's loads of them. They're all at Twitch now. They're all streaming, playing Call of Duty.
Exactly, they're
all at it now. I mean, obviously you're just a bit more productive than that. But
he started doing it. James Taverniers does it. Yeah. Big Declan Gallagher does it.
Halliday's been at it for ages. Halliday's a media whore these days. He's an open goal. He's won Twitch. Never done that.
But you're a footballer, Sam, as well.
Also,
so let's get into that,
yeah,
mate. The most important thing. How was it you getting into football and such?
So probably started when, like, taking it seriously when I was about 11, 12 years old. You know, that's probably the age where, and younger, boys start to go into kind of professional youth systems, that sort of thing. And I was playing for a local team in Bearsden. I then moved to Antonine Football Club, who are in kind of based in Clydebank.
Oh, I played them when I was at Boys Club.
Good team. Always good sides.
Their centre mids were class. I played centre mid and I just get bullied every game.
I was playing.
Really?
How old are you?
I'm 23.
I'm 23 as well, so you might have played me.
98?
97. Maybe not.
No, but I played in the year above because I kind of...
Because you're a good player?
No.
Terrible, mate. That was great content we could have made there. We could have made up a story about the game.
When I played, it was a big blonde boy that played in the middle. Right. And there was another. Both of them are quite tall.
Right, okay.
But they were just after back.
They just
after back winning the Scottish Cup like a year in a row.
So they're a really good side. So yeah, I went there when I was about 12, 13, because another one of my mates had gone and said, listen, this is the team you go to if you want to get scouted. At that age, that's all you want.
Yeah.
So I went there. He got picked up straight away by Falkirk. I played a little bit longer.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
And basically, Celtic came in with the first team that came in, and basically went on trial with them for about 10 weeks. And at that time as well, there was a couple other, like Aberdeen and Falkirk, were then starting to kind of get a sniff. Because as soon as one club thinks, oh, there's a good player here, then they all kind of jump on it. And I was down at Barrowfields, trialling and stuff like that. And to meet the time, I just remember being kind of just almost like starstruck by it all. Like, you're going to this big football club, this big kind of amazing organisation type thing, and down at Barrowfield, down at Lennoxtown, eventually signed, played a couple of games, and I went in as a right winger and I signed as a centre back, so that was kind of, had to realise that maybe that is where I'm going to play. But yeah, and that was it. From there I stayed 8 years, from 12 till 20, I think 2021. I had an amazing time. That
must be like the time of your life, that. I mean, what an experience that is. For that length of time, I've been in such a massive club, even just like the faces you would have seen around the place and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine just being starstruck every day.
I mean, you do see a lot. You're there for 8 years, so you're there, different managers. There's a lot of change over the 8 years. And probably it's not until you get to, well, for me anyway, until I got to about 18, 19, 20, that you start to realise, like, how amazing an opportunity you actually have. You know, when you're 13, 14, 15, 16, you almost take it for granted a little bit. But then as you get older, it's like, this is pretty special. You're travelling with the first team European games, you're travelling the world. You know, the way you get looked after in terms of just being treated as like a professional footballer, you don't get it in many clubs in Scotland. Like, you're treated really, really well in terms of nutrition, gym access. You know, the facility, you've probably been up to Lennox, and the facilities are incredible. And it's only when you come to that older age, you start to really kind of realise that it is something special that you're part of, kind of thing.
Do you think the fact that you had that, you were that sort of club with that sort of, like prioritising nutrition and fitness and looking after yourself, do you think that's helped you in your career, drop down to part-time football?
Massively. And again, I've only realised it in the last year how much I actually learned from being at Celtic. Like, literally, not only were you, they were training you to be the best footballer you could be, but they educate you on everything. And obviously you have to be willing to learn as well, and I find that stuff super interesting. Like, all the kind of like every aspect of making yourself a better football player and a better athlete. I find that really interesting. Like the kind of mindset side, the nutrition side, sleep side, gym side, football side, like all of that I just really loved. And a lot of the time, some of it was all good natured, but sometimes the physios and the sports science would be like this guy won't leave us alone kind of thing, or stop asking questions. But it was just because I was so interested in why we were doing everything. And I think now I've realised that I learned so much and I've got so much to share, and so many players don't get that because they're not at Celtic. Do you know what I mean? There's so many players that need that kind of education on like what do I eat, what do I do in the gym, what do I do in training, like how do I look after myself the best I can to become the best player I can. Because I think as well when you're looking after yourself like that, not only are you making yourself a better athlete and stuff, you're also like, even if you don't make it as a footballer, you know how to really look after your body, and I think that's really important. You know, you get an education how to look after your body and mind.
We've got a ghost in here, by the way, that sometimes the coffee machine just interrupts. So it does.
What's it Ryan calls it? The ghost of 10 in a row.
Ghost of 10 in a row, he calls it. What would be like a typical day in the life then when you were at Celtic?
Typical day in the life. So I'll give you a Lennox thing, because obviously when you first go full time, it's 16, 17, 15, 16. I was 15 because I was a bit young, October birthday, so you obviously start pre-season in the summer. So I was 15, and you start off at Barrowfield, and that's kind of where you earn your stripes, and it's almost like the making of you, can you handle it kind of thing, before you move up to Lennoxtown. You almost need to qualify at Barrowfield, prove that you can handle it, and then you move up to Lennoxtown. Obviously that's where the first team are, so you need to be able to handle it. So at Barrowfield, we would wake up in the morning, you would get a train into town, and there'd be a minibus pick-up point in town, pick up all the boys first thing in the morning, drive you along to, sometimes it would be Celtic Park, sometimes it would be Barrowfield. You then got changed, you had your breakfast, and you'd go along to, if you were at Celtic Park, you'd go along to Barrowfield, you'd do your jobs, you'd get all the kit out, training session, and then after that you'd get showered, and there was only one or two minibuses, and there was more players that would fit in the minibuses, and everyone, just wee guys like starving, the boys sprinting along to Celtic Park, like not willing to wait for the bus to come back. It was a funny time, and you're all like 15, 16, 17 having the time of your life. You're getting paid as well.
To do something that you love.
Exactly. You go along there, get your lunch, and then you'd come back again. Sometimes you'd do another training session. They'd keep you. You do really long days. You were in till about 4. To a footballer, that's probably quite a long day. But it's not.
No for you now.
But for a footballer, not for me now. 24/7.
Who was in your kind of age group? Celtic youth players?
I had a brilliant age group. We were actually, I would say, we were. So obviously KT, the most kind of recognised player now.
It's not bad.
He's done phenomenal. Aye. But to be fair, he would tell you as well. Like at that young age, he would probably say to you straight away, by the way, I would have no idea that I'm going to have this career, and no one would have guessed it either. So KT obviously done really well. Jamie McCart, he's playing at St Johnstone just now. He's doing fantastic. Myself
flying.
Nah. Joe Thompson, he's playing over at Derry.
He was at Dumbarton,
He was at Dumbarton. He's playing over at Derry. Aidan Nisbet, he's at
Falkirk now.
He's at Falkirk now. You've got boys. You do have other boys as well that are still. Aaron Comrie, he's at Dumbarton. He's at Dumbarton.
Good lad too.
There's loads of boys still playing in kind of lower leagues and stuff like that. And I think that's impressive in itself, because I don't think you get that turnover. Like, I think often it's maybe even less than that.
Just fall out the game.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's boys that played for us who you thought were going to go all the way who've kind of dropped out. I get Calvin Miller as well. He's down playing. I don't know. He's changed to a few clubs recently.
I think he's at Colchester now, isn't he?
Is it?
Aye. I played with him as well for like a couple of years, but he was scary.
He was at Airdrie United.
He's for Castmalt. I'm for Castmalt. So he played boys club with us, and for like 2 years, mate, he scored about 5 a game.
Yeah,
scary, innit?
He's another one that's gone from a winger to a fullback, though. He's another one to go down that route.
Aye. He's doing well. He's doing well for himself now, though. Regan Henry just went down to Forest
Green.
What
a player, by the way.
Brilliant footballer.
So glad he's left right Rovers, by the way.
So who was out with yourself then? Like the guy you looked at in your age group and thought he could, go away?
To be honest, at the time when we were, Aidan Nisbet was...
I was just going to say that, because what a talent, by the way.
He was. There was a period of time when we were 17, 18, where he was just unbelievable. He was on absolute fire. But even with the national, you go away with the Scotland national teams, and he was unbelievable, scary good. And to be honest, he would again, I'm probably throwing him under the bus here, but he would tell you as well. But he didn't look after himself the way he does now, so that probably killed him a little bit at that 19, 20, 21 age, because he wasn't as professional as he is now. I think now he realises that he has. I think all players get to a stage where you realise you can't just rely on your football ability. Yeah. It's all these aspects that we were talking about earlier. You know, your nutrition, your mindset, your recovery, it's a full package. If you want to be a football player and play at the top level, or even the level I'm playing at, you still need to look after yourself. And yeah,
but see, just some of the names you've mentioned, because it's a topic we're going to come on to. But obviously, for people who drop out like pro youth at Celtic or Rangers and stuff, they fall down through the leagues. You know, as you said, a lot of them just drop out of football completely. But I mean, amongst that age group, I mean, Regan Hendry's flying. He's done really, really well at Raith Rovers. Conrad Dunfermline will play in the Premiership again soon. Fantastic player. Nesbitt's a great player. You know, I think he's. You made a good point that he's kind of maybe had to realise himself, but that's a lot of those players that are going to go and play at a good level. You know, in terms of like a turnover from an age group at Celtic and Rangers, that must be really, really high.
Yeah, completely. And I would say credit to Celtic for nurturing those players. It's the upbringing that we had there that's ultimately allowed you know, us all to go on and have decent careers. And we're still young. We're still 22, 23, 24. You know what I mean? So you've still got 10 plus years ahead of you. Yeah,
because I guess as well, your experience at Celtic kind of sets you up for life, doesn't it? Yeah. So even though if you don't end up playing for Celtic, you will still do well in life because of the experiences that you've kind of had. And you've, for all the guys that we've mentioned so far, and yourself included, then you're doing well.
Yeah, I think it's a good grounding as well. Like, you learn kind of just standards from day one. The minute you go in when you're 15, 16, there's standards put on you, and they're high standards because it's a club like Celtic. And at a young age, that stayed with me. It stayed with a lot of the boys. So no matter what they do in life, they'll have a level of high standards. But not only that, I mean, away from the football side, they look after in terms of education and stuff like that. Like they make you finish off 4th, 5th and 6th year. They've got a lot of things in place on that side as well.
Yeah. Let's see, a lot of the Celtic boys as well, I think every one of them, didn't you hit a certain age, you go to St Ninians, is that right? How does that work? Because like maybe for the outside looking in, some people won't know that happens. A lot of the boys that are at pro youth end up, they all go to the same school and these train and all that. Like that was the day. So
basically when I went, it was still quite early stages. I was maybe 3rd year in or 4th year in to the actual programme that they started up. So it was still early stages, and it was extremely intense, like ridiculous. You were again, this, to be fair, it was crazy. So some boys would be up between 5:30 and 6 on a bus into school, train, breakfast, school all day, and then you'd go straight up to the training ground. There'd be a tutor there who would help you with school stuff. You get your dinner, and then you train, and you'd be home about 8, 9 p.m. So you're out the house at 5:30, home at 8 or 9, Monday to Friday. That's a big schedule. That's a big schedule. Going. But again, you just do it, and because you're playing football and you think you're going to play for, and that's it. You just love it. You don't really kind of think too negatively on it. But now I think the boys go in at first year, so they're more integrated into the school because there was a wee bit of division naturally. I think boys are going in the 3rd year and 4th year, you know, and I think not everyone, but you know what it's like, kind of thinking they're the kind of bee's knees, like walking out, I play for Celtic. And then all the local lads are like, we hate them.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
We hate them.
See, we were talking about the great things you've learned from Celtic Pro Youth and stuff. Is it just me, and you might know this, but there seems to be like this sort of myth and this thing that if you don't make it at Celtic and you failed, do you find that? Do you ever get that sort of leveled at you because you didn't end up playing for the first team at Celtic, that somehow you failed through the youth system? Whereas what you're saying is, how can you fail? How can you fail through that? Because you've picked up so much and learned so much that people you can only dream of doing, really.
I think it's definitely a mindset thing, and it's hard to think, especially when you're in that process of leaving. If you've been there since 12 years old and you're now 20, it's all you've known, and you're being told, right, you're not good enough to be here, you have to go. It definitely does kill you. But I think if you've done yourself justice through your years there, you'll know that you've got the kind of skill set and the tools to go and do well elsewhere. And when I was leaving, I knew I was leaving, so it wasn't like I wasn't being naive or like just thinking, I'm going to stay here, get another contract, another 2 years, because I wasn't in the manager's plans or anything like that. But what I learned from being at the club, to me, it was a success because I learned so much. That's just the way I saw it. And I think maybe a year or two after, when boys do come out, they do feel the same. I reckon if you asked any of the boys now, who the boys we've talked about, they would say, like the time I had there, like it's allowed me to now be where I am right now and kick on. It is definitely tough. Some boys struggle with it more than others. And to be honest with you, there probably should be better mechanisms in place and systems in place to help boys off of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to come to that because obviously there's been a lot of criticism levelled at like, you know, youth development in Scotland. Obviously the Colt teams have come in now, which is something you didn't have access to in terms of Celtic Colts playing at like an adults football kind of level they play in the Lowland League. We've talked about the good things about the Celtic youth system, but you're mentioning there that maybe there could be a bit of like almost aftercare for guys leaving. Because you can imagine that. We just feel like the end of the world, wouldn't it?
Because that's it. For 10 years, you're going into Celtic every single day, and then you wake up the next day and then you're not. And that's it's definitely tough.
That's like
I
anything in life,
had
isn't
quite
it?
a nice transition because I went to Dundee United. But if you're not, if you don't have something, and a lot of boys don't have anything set up, it's tough. It's very, very tough. And I don't know if it's something for the clubs or something for maybe an external body to kind of cover all players at all clubs who leave kind of thing.
See, just coming back to the Colts playing in the Lowland League, I want to pick your brain on that a wee bit as well, because I've seen criticism levelled at the pro youth system about like you're playing against the same guys every year or whatever for how competitive is it and such. Do you think this is a good thing for the youth team? Obviously it's just Rangers and Celtic, which is a limitation in itself, but do you think this is a good thing for the development of their players?
I think it's the best thing those players could have access to. I don't know how good it is for the other clubs in the league, but for Celtic and Rangers, it's a brilliant thing. They've got their boys playing against men, and that's probably one of the biggest problems that you don't have access to unless you go out on loan. And some boys don't really like going out on loan. Some boys have really bad experiences going out on loan. And I suppose this is a slightly more controlled environment to allow them to play against men. And I think it can only be a positive thing for the young players, because I'm not entirely sure what's the kind of, is there an age limit on the youth players that can play?
I know that the labelling them as B teams, so I'd imagine it's just like the youth guys. So between 21, maybe 21 and under.
21, yeah.
It's a really good point. And you talked about how, you know, your upbringing at Barrowfield and stuff, that was make or break stuff. I mean, going from youth football to senior football is make or break. That first kind of year or two playing in senior football can decide whether or not you're really going to make it. I mean, at Dunfermline, we had two Celtic boys last year, with Ewan Henderson and Kerr McInroy. Now, Ewan Henderson's played a bit of football for the Celtic first team, and you could tell he was used to playing adult football. Kerr McInroy, obviously a talented player, but just jumping in that physicality from playing youth football all the time, you could tell there was a difference there. And especially in like the Lowland League, is even worse than the Championship is, in terms of you're not going to get that time in the ball necessarily. You're not going to get to play on nice pitches and stuff. It's going to be a bit rough and tumble. So it really is going to be a stiff learning curve for a lot of them.
I think it'll be good character building for the lads.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because they're gonna be good to play against these men, and they're not going to be
giving
them it easy.
All
They'll be
these
through
Lowland
them.
League
They'll be
teams,
getting them stick on the.
They're going to be
pitch.
determined to smash Celtic and Rangers.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're all out to get them, and that's what you need to be if you're going to play for Celtic and Rangers.
But that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, of course.
That's good for those players.
Best preparation for it.
They'll learn early. They'll learn early, rather than leaving Celtic at 20, never having experienced anything, and it's like, what the hell was this? Because I remember I went on loan at 18, I think, to Dumbarton for the first time, and it took me maybe 2 or 3 games, and I was like, what is this? I've just came from like this nice kind of like Celtic, just keeping the ball passes side to side, dominating teams. I was basically playing as a winger. I'm a right back. I was playing as a winger for the last 5 years of my life, and then all of a sudden I've not gone past the halfway line once. There's balls coming out the sky, like I'm just like, what? Boys screaming at you. I remember the very first game, I'll never forget, it was for Dumbarton. I can't remember who we were playing, and it's a goal kick, and I've dropped to get the ball off the keeper. Keeper's passed me it, and then I've done nothing on, passed it back, and he sliced it, and it's like scooped up in there, and it's coming back down on top of him. All the strikers are running in. The gaffer, Steve Aiken at the time, was just screaming at me like, "Don't do that again. Whatever you do."
God.
I was like, oh my God, because obviously Celtic, you're used to like
going and getting the ball,
getting the ball.
But that's so deeply coached into you that you've got to do that sort of stuff at Celtic. You don't do that at Celtic, you're getting a ball kick.
Exactly.
It's mental.
But that was the last time I did it. First and last time I did it all season.
you become streetwise, I suppose, doing stuff like that. What was that season, your first season at Dumbarton? Was that 17-18?
17-18, yeah. I loved it actually. It was Stevie Aitken and Ian Durant who were there, and they just worked really well together. The squad we had as well was a really good squad. We had experienced players, young players. It was a really good combination, and we actually got. I know it was the Ironbrook Cup at the time, but Dumbarton got all the way to the final that
you
season.
had Froxelias. What a player he was.
Some
by the way.
goals he scored.
Was no idea he scored that screamer.
It was a semi down in Wales.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Free kick, and then he scored an absolute rocket from.
Just a funny story in that. I remember I was Dunfermline played at Tandy Saturday, and I was travelling up, and the cup final was at Perth, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And they played Inverness, and there was a load of Dumbarton fans on the train signing about this Cypriot guy, and he was just total cult hero. He was only there for about 3 months.
I know.
Yeah, what a goals he scored. I don't know what happened to him actually.
I have no
was
idea.
it Falkirk actually for a bit?
He just kind of vanished. But he played in front of me, and he was like, Sam. He's like, I'm not coming back to help you defend. I'm just going to stay here. I was like, no problem.
I'm loving this. Having someone talking about lower league Scottish football because he's trying useless all the time.
He was like,
trying my best.
He's like, I'm not going back there. I've no idea how he even made his way. I don't know where he came from. He just appeared one day at Dumbarton, this unbelievable footballer.
He actually scored a worldie against Dunfermline. It was two each, and he scored an absolute cracker. And I was standing right beside it, behind
it. Going to search this on YouTube, so I know what you're talking about.
It's one of those. Once it's hit, it's only going one place. Yeah. Right in the top corner. You probably played that game.
I played that.
I probably give you some abuse when you're coming down that line.
Do you get some absolute awesome players down in the lower leagues as well? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean because you're playing in the lower leagues that you're a bad player. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
But even, obviously Dumbarton, they were, in the championship for Dumbarton.
That was championship.
Yeah. So
was that with Ian Murray? Was he the manager?
No, I think he was maybe the season before. I think it was Steve Aitken and Ian Durant, and I had a great season there. Boys were brilliant. I learned a lot. That was a real eye opener. Obviously, being young, realising like that's what football is, not what I've been playing. I think up until you get to 16, I think up until you get to 17, 18, that youth football is brilliant. It's really, really good. And then after that, I think you need to experience both. You can't just stay playing youth football.
Just to pull it back a wee bit then, back to your experiences in youth football, because it was very successful. You won 3 youth cups, wasn't it? Yeah. Scored in 2 of the cup finals, captained in the 3-0. What was that like, doing that and having the experience? Would that be number one in your youth?
To be honest with you, looking back, like the experiences of travelling, playing in those youth cups, playing in the kind of youth Champions League games, like those were all this kind of highlights in my head that stand out. But we did have a really good team, so we did do really well, and we just thought you almost like it was when I was there in that age group, you almost just came to kind of believe like you were just expecting to win every one of these cups that you played in, every game you played in. That's just the mind, because we've been so successful, kind of thing. So it was a pretty special time in the youth squad setup, but also there was still like even in the youth games you were playing a lot of the time with a lot of the first team players as well. So it was good. It was good experience for the youth players to be playing with these guys, watching what they do, because again that was one of the things I did. Like up at Lennoxtown, when you do move up to Lennoxtown, you're with the first team. They're training beside you, they're in the gym, you're eating with them. And for me, I used to just watch and just try and copy what some of these guys did. But I thought if these guys are doing, if Colo Touré's lying in the gym, so this is what he'd come into the gym.
You must have some Colo Touré stories for us.
He'd lie with his legs in the air up against the wall. Right? That sounds dodgy, but no, it was a stretch, right? So I used to watch him and go, right, if he's doing that, I reckon if I do that, that's going to do something for me. So I still do it now. It's just a good stretch for your legs, but that's the kind of thing I did. I just used to watch what these players did, and I thought if these things are working for the guys like them, then maybe they might help me a little bit, and that can only be a good thing. Because for me, it's all the 1%. It's like all the nutrition stuff's 1%, the kind of mindset stuff's a 1%, the gym stuff's a 1%. What I don't know, Colo Touré or Lustig's doing in the gym, that's another 2% there. Do you know what I mean? It was just wee things picked up, but that's another part of the learning experience. You're in that environment with these first team players, and you learn a lot from them as well.
Did any of the first team lads catch you maybe gawking at them and give you a bit of stick?
That probably sounds weird now that I've said that.
Everyone's got a picture of you just staring at Colo Touré in the gym.
Let's make a meme of that. But did any the first team guys ever give you a wee bit of stick, or even a wee bit of advice or anything like that? Or
to be honest with you, like I never really had any bad experiences. They were all good guys. I just remember Colo Touré just saying like, listen, these are good things that you should be doing in the gym after training, coming in, like going down, using your ice baths, kind of sort of thing. And he liked that, and he kind of buzzed off that. If he saw you doing that, he'd be like, brilliant. He's like, I love that kind of thing.
It's class, man.
I know. So it's there was never really any. I never really had any bad experiences.
So obviously Colo Touré was that. Means Rodgers was the manager.
Rodgers was the manager.
What was the big changes around the place when he came in?
So you'd been there on the dial, hadn't you, beforehand?
Yeah.
Aye.
Did you ever? So did you see when you were in the youth set? Did you have much dealings with first team managers?
So the most dealings I had with any of the managers was Brendan Rodgers. I had a couple of like meetings with him, just one to one, just because he was that kind of guy. That's what separated. That's what made he's world class.
Yeah.
And I wasn't part of his first team or part of his plans. There was sometimes I would train. I played. I think there was one friendly. So I wasn't really a big part of his squad, but he would still take the time to kind of chat to you and build that kind of some level of relationship with you, which is pretty special, I think, considering you're not part of kind of their plans. And that was the difference between maybe someone like himself, and obviously that's why he's now managing at the top level, you know. But there was, in terms of like again high standards and like professionalism, when he came in, like I personally thought there was massive changes across the board, from like even like wee things like some of the like the improvements in facilities, improvements in staff, improvements in just loads of little details.
Aye. That's what I was going to say. I was up there doing a job once, a filming job, and we got a tour of the place. Obviously, I might get some stick for this. I'm a Rangers fan, but we got a tour of the place, and I can't remember who it was doing it, but he was just talking about Rodgers and how much everything.
You're not a Rangers fan. You've got Tierney in the back of that.
Behave yourself. That's a joke. You know what I mean? What was I saying? He's taking us about and he was telling us everything, how everything's changed with Rodgers and such, and how he's such a perfectionist as well.
Yeah.
Like he was telling us a story of they have cleaners, and they one time they went in and they just moved something, and Rodgers was doing it at reception like, what's happening with this? Like apparently he was just such a perfectionist, which is,
you could tell that attention to detail was something that he was massive on, because like obviously things were in very kind of like perfect almost, kind of just everything ran really smoothly.
Unfortunately for me.
that's the thing about, and I've said this a lot when there's been loads of talk about managers on this show recently, but standards, if a manager's got top standards, that feeds right the way down the club, like the whole way through. You talk about that there, I mean, that's amazing for me. Sit down and have chats with you one to one. I mean, listen, he doesn't need to. Most managers wouldn't, but it just makes the difference, you know. So, say there was ever a situation where you end up playing, you can run through a brick wall for that guy because he's gone out his way to kind of, you know, that's the massive difference.
That's the difference between some managers. I think they have that emotional side to them, and they can build relationships, and I think that's when you get the most out of your players, when you're able to do that as a manager. Because at the end of the day, like, if you're a manager at one of these clubs, you know, all the players know how to play football. It's just managing them and getting the most out of them. And if you don't have that ability, then you're not going to be a top level manager. I've had some different experiences with different managers, and I think the ones that I like the most are the ones that are able to build that relationship with you. Not be your pal, but just like understand you and know that you're not just like a robot. You know what I mean?
There's a duty of care there as well if you're a manager at a top club, especially for the youth players. I mean, we talked about it there about players who follow youth football. You know, if you kind of you know that the club are going to look after you, that comes from the manager. But you can see, I don't want to go into this too much, but you can see that Steven Gerrard's done that as well in terms of standards and looking after the players and stuff, and it feeds right the way down. And it's no surprise that for both of them, success followed pretty quickly.
And it goes back to what you were saying as well about high standards at these clubs, and if that slips under somebody's stewardship, then the results can slip as well.
When you first left Celtic and you were getting beat, how did you take it?
But when I left
Celtic and you're going from winning every week and having to win, and if you don't win it's not good enough, to going and playing for a team where you might lose 3 in a row.
I actually see a lot of players that go for that change and they don't know how to handle it. Like,
it is very different. It's very different, but that's me 3-4 years out now. So it's normal now.
Getting pumped every week. So Dundee United, you went to a Celtic. So Dundee United is obviously a big club. Rotten luck with an injury. I want to talk about that because this is something that I've always think about. Big injuries happen with players and stuff, and again, supporters don't really think about how to. I mean, mentally that must be quite tough. You've just left Celtic, big injury. How was that to deal with?
Yeah. To be honest with you, that was probably the worst time I've ever had in my life. As a footballer, but also out of football, was my time at Dundee United. It was just a combination of the injury was tough, but also just the management I got as well was pretty poor, and I was honestly, that was the closest I ever got to just
Dundee United manager was at that
time. to chucking it. I was honestly like this close to just going, this is making me so like genuinely depressed. I was depressed at that time, just with the combination of my knee and the way I was kind of getting managed. I just that was almost me finished off with football. But I think that happens to a lot of players as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we talked earlier about duty of care, something I've said a few times now. In terms of like the PFA and stuff, did you ever go to them? Any support off them through that time? How were they to deal with?
No, they do have lots of support systems in place, and they're very, very good. Michelle Evans that works there is big on that side of things, and she does help the players a lot. And there's bodies in place. I can't remember the name of them, but basically support for mental health for footballers kind of thing. and I know players do use it because it's a big thing. Probably more players should use it. Yeah. But at the time, I just relied on kind of friends and family to kind of help me get through it. And strangely enough, I've told the story before, but I was quite down before I did my knee. Yeah. And basically after I did my knee, because I wasn't. It was Shabalazzo when I first went in, and basically I played the first game of the season and we lost, and I got a lot of the blame, and then after that I was completely out of the picture.
Dunfermline, I'm sure.
It was against Dunfermline. You remember? Were you at that game?
Oh, I thought we were going to win the league that year.
Was it my fault? I'm only joking.
I've
seen the game. It was Shabalazzo. Have you said Shabalazzo?
I think we scored 3 that day.
Oh my god! I rub it in.
Thanks for reminding me.
Fraser Ayre scored a cracking free kick.
He did. But basically, after that game, I didn't play again for under him. So that was really tough because I'm still pretty young at the time, and I'd moved away, obviously only to Dundee.
Still a fair bit away.
Living myself, and not playing any football and not getting a sniff into the team. So I was like, this is awful kind of thing. And then he left and Robbie Nielsen came in, and I was thinking, right, a new manager, fresh start kind of thing, brilliant. Didn't get a sniff. And he actually told me to leave that. So I joined the summer. He told me to leave at the Christmas. Right? I was like, my God. And then I did my knee a week later.
Fucking.
So then I was at a club where I knew the manager didn't want me for like another. Did my knee. And even wee things like, for example, so before I did my knee, he was trying to push loads of players out of the club, just as you do. But again, duty care thing, I don't think there's a way to do things, and that's not how you should operate. No other business or company in the world would get away with it. So basically, kept me out of the first team dressing room, and I was essentially getting changed down at the stadium sometimes with like 1 or 2 other boys. And they wouldn't be training on for us sometimes. Sometimes we train with the youth team. Like, you're just getting tossed about. You know what I mean? Like not treated how you should be treated as a professional, that kind of thing. And it was actually I was really low at that point. And it was a week later I did my knee. And strangely enough, because I did my knee, I actually felt better because I had a focus. Like before that, I wasn't training. I wasn't playing. I was like, I'm just going around in circles here. Did my knee. And I was like, right, I now have an opportunity to focus on getting this back perfect, make myself strong as I was before, and then going on improving. I can play and whatever, that sort of thing. Yeah. So that did give me a focus, and that improved how I was feeling. And then a year later, I'm coming back from the knee. Yeah. Robbie Nielsen's still the manager. And obviously I know I'm going out on loan because I've only got 6 months left in the contract by this point. I know I'm going to go out on loan, but obviously when you're coming back from that injury, you need to go through the phases of rehab and stuff. Yeah. And one of those phases is training for a few weeks. And of course, I'm not allowed to train. So I was like, what? So I was like, what chance have I got?
Did you fall out with them? Or what was the... Because how can you just... I know you say he wants you to leave, but do you, like... Surely it's in his and the club's interest to have you train it and fit, because otherwise you're not going to go anywhere.
Exactly. And I was so frustrated by that point. I was just like, all I need to do is train for 2 weeks and then I'll be gone. But he was like, nah.
I'm loving this because it's well known in this podcast I'm not a fan of Robbie Nielsen.
I was going to say you're a big fan of Nielsen.
But just going to bring it back to that. I'm not going to turn this into a Robbie Nielsen slide.
No. But eventually, so basically what happened was I spoke to Tony Ashgard, kind of runs the club, and I said, listen, I need to train for 2 weeks. And then I'll be gone, kind of thing. So he obviously had a conversation. I trained for a few weeks, played a couple of games, and then went on loan to Dumbarton in the January. And then pandemic hits. I was like, what's next?
So this is the mental thing, right?
Is it?
You're obviously
see that there. A lot of people don't see that side.
That's what I was just going to come on to. So everyone goes about, say you're working. Like, right, I'm working in Tesco just now, right? Say I'm working in Tesco and I don't get on with the manager in Tesco, right? And then I'm off work, right? And then I've just moved away to live somewhere else. That is like a horrible situation to be in mentally for anyone. Then you've got the pressure to still try to play football and forge a career that way. And what thing I was going to come to, because see, I would guess that the majority of young footballers in your position might have chucked it there. How much do you think that sort of Celtic mindset from what you were brought up with at a youth level of kind of having focuses and determination and stuff, how much do you think that helped you?
It did help me massively because I knew that I was capable of playing at a good level, a top level. I mean, genuinely, I still believe I could play in the Scottish Premiership like comfortably after if I got a few kind of good seasons under my belt. So but I don't think I think as a player, if you believe that, because at the end of the day, you'll know that you're the only person that can back yourself. So you always have to have that belief. and I've always kind of believed in myself. Just generally, I've got quite strong kind of beliefs in my ability, that sort of thing. So that helped, but also the upbringing in at Celtic, it makes you strong, makes you tough. But
tough, yeah.
That kind of 1 year, 2 years, like I learned so much just about myself and my mindset going from like rock bottom, that kind of thing. I know it's not the worst thing in the world, but at the time it's all relative. It was the worst thing that could have happened to me. Yeah, people might listen and think it's not that bad. You're still.
It was a pretty severe injury though as well, wasn't it? It was the ACL.
ACL, yeah, and that can be
one of the worst you can get.
Yeah. And I ended up having a couple of ops as well, like 2 ops actually, just tidy ups and stuff. So it wasn't a smooth process. But definitely, I think the upbringing from Celtic it helped me massively. I was very kind of resilient from being there, and I'd also spent best part of a year playing in the Championship for Dumbarton, so I knew I could, and I played well. That's how I got the move, so I knew I was capable of doing it. So I think if you have that strong belief system in yourself, because a lot of boys would just, that would be like that. They'd be like, no way, I've had enough. Because already they've left Celtic. They've like.
But the thing is, that's you can understand that as well. It's totally understandable. I mean, to be in that sort of situation, as I said, in any walk of life, it's tough enough. But you're also going to get that thing levelled at you of, oh, you're a footballer, you've got a crucial life.
I know.
That's really, really tough to take. And you still see that loads.
I hate when people say that.
And it's like obviously relevant to that situation, but even like the stuff now you're doing outside of football now. Guarantee if Airdrie go in a bad spell, you'll get Airdrie fans moaning at you for, because you see it all the time. See if like Andy Halliday goes an open goal after Hearts have been pumped, he's getting slagged.
He's not allowed to go in.
But there's so many supporters of Scottish football now that have this don't have this understanding that a player's life isn't just playing football on a Saturday. There is so much more to that. And again, what is the biggest thing you hear about players who finish their career is, where do they go next? Players have got to be proactive now in terms of having something after.
Yeah, and you've been proactive. You go to Dumbarton, COVID hits. You started doing the small Zoom workouts and such.
So essentially, that is just how the kind of my business started. When I went to Dumbarton, I decided, because obviously I had that bad spell at Dundee United. I thought to myself, right, if I go part time here, I need to have something where I can earn money straight away. So I ended up doing a PT course qualification, just because I knew I could earn money straight away from that, and I had no worries, that kind of thing. But then COVID hit, so I just literally I was sitting in the house one day, and I just thought, like, we'd done a few kind of Zoom quizzes like everyone had been. I was like, why don't I take my mates for a workout on Zoom? So I did it, and I posted it on my Instagram. And then really from there, I ended up doing, it was like 20, 30 a week. Ended up doing NHS one, BBC came round. Yeah, so I was getting a bit of traction and stuff like that. And I actually also discovered the fact that I love coaching people, really passionate about it, really passionate about impacting people, that sort of thing, and just teaching them what I've learned. And I kind of transitioned over the last year and a half. I've kind of been, obviously it's start very early stages, but I transitioned from basically being more kind of PT, kind of general focused. Now I'm shifting more towards kind of football focus, because I think that's I've grown a bit of an audience there, and that's where a lot of youngsters are taking a lot of advice from.
Where do you want to go next? I've got a couple of topics. One thing I wanted to bring up was, as much as I hate talking about it, the COVID thing, and the thing I wanted to bring up, because I actually spoke to Aaron Conley, you mentioned him about this, asked him about it on Saturday. COVID in football, obviously horrible for the fans. That's all everyone talks about. There's no fans in ground, it's horrible. But from what I can understand from speaking to him and a couple others, it must have been awful to play football during that time, or be at a football club, because you can't train properly, you can't do match day properly, you can't do all the normal stuff you would do as part of a football team. And nobody sees that. Fans do not see that at all.
It was really strange. It was really strange, and we were playing like 3-4 games a week. I think there was a time where we had,
of course, because League One went
ridiculous amount of games. We stopped again. We stopped.
That's right. It was January.
We stopped, so we had to ram all these games in.
I remember that.
And it was just so bizarre. Like we weren't even training half the time. We were just turning up and playing games. Boys were absolutely knackered. But yeah, to be honest, it's been pretty strange. Obviously, going out with you don't get a lot of fans, but when the fans make a big difference at the lower leagues, they do make a big difference.
And Barton got that young team at the back as well.
They do. They actually
was it the young sons?
The young sons. That's it. They got the big drum and stuff. And you could actually, they ended up coming. You could hear them like through the fence. Nice. They were trying to climb the fence. And I think there was actually a photo that came out, and they'd lined their bikes up.
I did see that.
They were reaching over.
Education.
Love that.
Yeah, that was class.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it is tough. Like there was times we were even training and stuff. Obviously, some clubs don't have their own training facilities, so some places were shut. Some clubs couldn't train. Some clubs are here one night, here the next night. There's no base, kind of all over the place. But yeah, I think it was tough. But now, obviously, things are starting to, fans are starting to come in a little bit now, which is good. There's more normality.
Did you, one thing that is like, obviously, in the training ground and stuff is where you kind of grow your team spirit, is where you become like a tight-knit group and stuff, but very much you're turning up, sometimes not even getting changed and stuff, training, going home.
No.
Did you find that in the team there was kind of maybe, it affected the togetherness, or did it help it in a way that you're facing adversity? Did that make a difference? Maybe it didn't make a difference, but... Yeah,
it is, because you do grow kind of closer when you're all travelling together, in the buses, everyone's spaced out. Sometimes you're not allowed to kind of car share into training, that sort of thing.
You weren't even allowed to get a shower and stuff, weren't you? After
Still
games?
Still
not allowed.
Still no showers. Still no showers after training or games. I don't really understand. I can go to the gym and get a shower.
Get a shower, exactly.
I don't know. I think it's different rules, but it definitely does have an impact. Does play a kind of factor. No food. Sometimes after training and stuff, you come in, have a chat, there'd be food on, that sort of thing. None of that. It was all just gone. You're literally turning up, training kit straight out onto the pitch. It was like being back in like boys club when you turn up stripped for the match. With your boots on, straight out into the game, then straight home.
No warm up or nothing, just straight in.
Got the shinies on driving to training. It's obviously been mental, but Airdrie this season, they were a ball-hair of promotion last season, so that'll be the target this year for...
The other, I need to give a shout out to Ryan, other boy Ryan. He tipped Airdrie for
relegation last season.
It was more of a joke. It was more of a joke, do you know what I mean? But he stuck by it. So that's why he's scared to come into the show today, because he's sticking by Airdrie to be relegated.
I wasn't... He's sticking by them, is he?
I think so, aye. Do you know, when it surprised me? I don't think so myself, especially with the acquisition of yourself.
I know, exactly. And Rico.
Exactly.
Strong at the fullbacks anyway.
Is Easton Airdrie as well?
Bill and Easton as well,
signing that is, by the way.
Good player.
Very good.
We signed really well. It was just really
Ian
good.
Murray, the manager as well. What's it like working under him so far?
I really like him so far. We've only been in maybe 5-6 weeks, but so far really good, really professional club, I think.
Yeah. They've turned around in the last few years, I think. Did not get like new owners or something in the last sort of 5.
What he was saying to me when I came in, he was third 2 seasons ago, second last season, and obviously this season wants to go kind of one further. But I think last season the table was crazy. That ended the last, like Falkirk went from, was it like second to fifth or something?
Thistle went from 7th to 1st.
Yeah, it was mad.
It was wild.
Because it was a shortened season anyway, then that got shortened even more. So if you can hit 3, 4, 5 games, you're flying. This year's going to be tough.
Tough league, actually, League One. League One's a tough league.
I've tipped Queen's Park for that.
Have you?
I think they're going to go back to back. But
we played another day.
How did it go?
They were alright.
But there is, Cove, obviously, they're on the upward trajectory, and Falkirk, as much as I'm loving their demise.
Alloa as well.
Alloa, Barry Ferguson, manager.
You've got a couple of good young players, Alloa, I have to say.
Very exciting. Like, we need to get along to some games.
I'll get you in VIP up at Airdrie.
Yes, please.
In the box.
Yes, please.
But yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough league. But that's the thing. I think that I'm a massive bigging upper of the lower leagues and stuff. But I just think over the last 3-4 years, maybe it's the fact that see what the Euros are on. See, apart from Scotland, I didn't watch much. Apart from Scottish football now, my enthusiasm's gone. But League One and stuff, it seems to be just so. Every season now, there's 3, 4, 5 teams that could win the league. And the playoffs had a completely different dimension. You could finish 4th and go up now. It's crazy in a 10-team league.
I know
It's mental. So it's going to be an exciting one.
There's a lot of clubs that seem to have a lot of cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, especially in our league, Cove and Queen's Park, I think. And also full time. You know what I mean? There's more teams going full time at lower level as well, which is quite interesting.
There's such an interesting dynamic because obviously Falkirk are going to be the favourites by a country amount, and so they should be because they're obviously the full time team. But that it doesn't always work the way people think it would work. I remember, Dunfermline spent 3 seasons in League One. And we were getting scudded off part-time teams all the time, and it was like last 10 minutes and they're all of a sudden finding the extra bit of energy, like what the fuck's going on here?
I know.
But yeah, it's always entertaining watching Falkirk struggle, so put a few past them this season, that'll do me well.
So what are you tipping then?
from my league?
He's got back the boys.
Of course.
I've got back my team.
Oh, you know who else we've got to talk about? Thomas Robert.
Yeah,
any good?
Well, so basically he was there last season.
Okay, so
but he's not been there this season.
So he's actually left now, is he?
I'm not sure. I've not really seen him.
Yeah, because he was tipped to go to Celtic and Rangers and all that kind of when he was at Airdrie. And then I watched them play a final against Morton on a horrible pitch, and I'm like, how is he tipped to go to Celtic and Rangers? But
I tell you what, though, it's hard to play. Like if you're a really kind of technical footballer, it's definitely a struggle to fit in the lower leagues in some games. I would say, it can easily bypass you.
Do you feel like you've got more time in the ball, less time in the ball? What's the big differences for your experiences?
It's so intense, high intensity. Like it is frantic. First 60 minutes of a game are so frantic. Then boys start to.
It's more like the lower you go, the lower
you still dropping to get the ball off the goalie and that. Is that,
way, man.
Is that well gone?
No way, never again.
You mentioned earlier about you still back yourself to eventually play in the Premiership maybe one day. You're obviously doing a lot of stuff outside football.
Yeah.
If you did get back to the Premiership, you'd end up back full time.
Yeah.
How have you thought about that in terms of?
Well, so basically for me, the offer, if I was to go full time again, the offer would have to be right. I wouldn't just go full time for the sake of going full time, because I do really love. I get a lot from it, the business and coaching. So it would have to be a really good offer and the right offer as well for me, because I do enjoy what I'm doing, and you shouldn't stop doing something you like.
No,
doing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
not.
absolutely. Talk to us a wee bit more then about the business and what it offers.
So basically, I've kind of transitioned into more kind of reaching football players. Just now I'm trying to grow on Instagram, TikTok. We start launching the YouTube this Sunday. And basically just giving behind the scenes in terms of how a footballer lives, that sort of thing. Maybe a bit of behind the scenes training, that sort of stuff as well. And the only kind of thing that I run is a player program where you kind of work with me for 5 weeks. It's like train with a pro, like a pro for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And you basically just cover all the stuff that I've kind of learned over the years with me. And then hopefully by the end of it, you are fully educated on life as a pro footballer.
Love that. You do like the nutritional side and everything. You take care of them.
Nutrition, gym, pitch-based stuff,
the full
technical
package.
stuff, the full package.
See, just then
you
the
get you two on
nutrition. Oh, absolutely. You need to get
players.
Did you say 5 weeks?
5 weeks.
I'll need 20. Man. I'll need 20. But no, I've seen it in the DMs. Actually, we should do some sort of.
We should the training
some
session.
sort of kind of wee training session.
Who's the best player? Who's the best player?
Tell you what, I back myself.
Yeah,
technically, I back myself.
I back myself technically as well. So I've never seen him play.
Okay.
We've been trying to get a game of fives on the go for ages, and he's not for it. So for me, I think he's scared.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I'll tell you, if one of you come on for the 5 weeks with me, you'll be some player by the end of it. So if you want to give yourself a head start,
no, you'll need it to be fair. So you'll need it to catch up.
No, definitely we should do that.
No, that would be funny. That would be funny.
Content.
Aye, it would be absolutely awful.
I thought we could sit here and chat about all sorts all day, but
I wanted to pick your brains as well on the nutritional side of it. Then obviously you offer nutrition. What is the typical nutrition for a footballer or yourself? Are you very strict? Are you tracking everything? Do you have set macros? Are you more laid back? How does that work?
So I prefer more kind of like, I think nutrition is very specific to the individual. I don't track because I know kind of what I'm eating and stuff these days, but I think at the very beginning, if you're new to it, I think tracking for a week or two is pretty good to kind of, for me, on the programme anyway, for me to see where you are. And once you track for a few weeks, I then show you how to get proper like numbers and stuff that will help you reach your goals. And really you just track until you know that what I'm eating in this day is X amount. Do you know what I mean? And then that should help you kind of get towards where you want to be. And for the football side of things, we got loads of education at Celtic. You get presentations and stuff about what you should eat at match day, recovery day, training day, off day, supplements, that sort of thing. So I just kind of cover everything like that.
That's like, a lot of people don't know that either though. Like they don't know what to eat before a match, after a match, and even supplements. Supplement specific. Like, so I seen on your Instagram stories that you take, is it football specific supplements? So I've never seen that before.
So the brand is just specific. They're just called soccer supplements. They're obviously trying to gear their business towards football players. And obviously as well, you want to make sure, depending on what level you're playing at, you have to get them batch tested and stuff to make sure there's nothing, in the products. But basically, the only things I take are multivitamins, fish oils, and whey protein. Those 3 things. There's honestly hundreds of different things that you could take, but I think those 3 are probably the most important. But again, it's more just, it's specific to everyone. What works for you, what you like taking, that sort of thing. But that's just something I learned from being at Celtic. There was literally, I used to love going in because they had every pill under the sun, like obviously just to help you, like magnesium to collagen, zinc, to all sorts of stuff. Exactly, they even had zinc, and it was like a pharmacy. And I used to go in, and you'd end up, got to a point where I had like 10, 15 pills or something. I'm like, what am I doing taking all these in the morning? I don't need these.
A good night out there.
But that's just another thing I kind of learned from growing up.
You mentioned earlier, tiny percentages can make the world of difference.
Yeah,
those
I think so. Yeah,
I agree. Sleep as well is big.
Massive.
That's sleep.
That's the most. I love my sleep.
Not in this heat though. It's horrible in this heat.
Oh, to be fair,
I'm struggling.
You need to go commando.
Yes.
For me, anyway.
With a fan on full tilt. Right, I normally, every time I've had a guest on before, I've not had a guest on for a while, but I used to fire out some quick fire questions. So I'm going to make some up off the top of my head.
On you go,
and
mate.
just hit you here. Right, I want best player played with.
Best player played with Mikey Johnson.
Not bad.
Didn't even get a mention in the last. I was going to bring him up, but
Yeah, he's
Good.
a couple of years younger than me, so he
Is
wasn't
he?
in my age group.
oh, right.
But he's technically
Very good.
just.
He's struggling with injury just now, though.
He
Isn't he?
has.
There's a few.
That's
But,
that's
yeah,
just
definitely,
a part of
technically.
football, yeah.
Will be good. Best player played against. Winger that's absolutely tore you apart.
So believe it or not, the best from memory, the best player played against is actually it's a sad story. It's the boy. Do you ever heard the story about the boy Nuri? He was Ajax, young player.
Light? Was that the light?
And
Oh,
he had an accident in the pitch. I don't know if it
Oh
was
my
a
God.
heart thing or something. And
Aye.
I'm not sure what kind of condition he's in now, but back then when we used to play European games, that Ajax team were unbelievable. But he was special player, just ability with the ball, manipulating it and stuff. Like it was just another level. So from memory, he's probably one of the best players played against. Because I think it changes as well. See, when you're young, you get these unbelievable players, and then sometimes they won't always be the ones that.
Is there any? I know I'm jumping in here, but is there any you played against that have made it and are flying in it?
Paddy Roberts, Joe Gomez, just thinking of guys off my head.
He loves it.
He's a
What a
good
player.
player.
He's a
He's a
top
good
player.
player. Adama Traore, he was at Barcelona. We still
Oh
in
my
Barcelona.
days.
Was he covered in baby oil that day as well?
I take it he was playing right wing.
He wasn't that size when he was. I don't
Really?
know. I don't know what
I don't know
happened
what
to
they're
him.
feeding.
Apparently, he doesn't do weights or nothing.
Apparently, there's no way.
Aye.
There's no way.
I'm not having this whole rubbing him in baby oil nonsense though. Have you seen
Vaseline
that?
covers himself in Vaseline.
Yeah.
He's like a boxer.
Was he as speedy as anything though back then?
He was rapid. He was rapid. Absolutely rapid.
That's the one thing. If you're a fullback, you don't want somebody with loads of pace.
Oh.
See, especially in low leagues in Scotland, if you've got somebody with loads of pace, it can make the world of difference. Best ground played at, I'm guessing, be Celtic Park. But yeah.
Never played at Ibrox then, no?
No.
Or it would be Ibrox.
Never.
Kid that.
Never. There we go.
The quick
Wee
hard
cup
questions are
run
slowing
with
down.
Airdrie. That'll get you at Ibrox hopefully
Maybe.
this year.
Maybe.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Well, I don't even know where I'm going to go now. These quick fire questions are pretty rubbish. I've had 3 and I've run out. So happens you don't.
Cats
Was
and
there, was
dogs.
there, was there anyone give any questions on social?
Well, see, as per usual.
No one
We
asked.
did, to be fair.
Oh, really?
Did they?
Aye, but where's my phone?
Oh, here
Was
we
there
go.
any good ones though? Are they even worth?
Well, let's fill some time.
Usually they're terrible. Sorry, guys.
So the problem is normally we put questions out for every single show, and by the time it gets to the end of the show and we read the questions out, we've covered every single topic. So it'll be like, we'll do a show and it'll get to the end of it and it'll be like, how do you think Ange Postecoglou will do at Celtic? And that was the whole first half of the show. So,
Right, prediction for tonight.
See, to be fair, mate, Rangers played Midtjylland a couple
take
years
your
ago.
kit, you'll get a game tonight.
I know.
Thinking like,
To be fair,
get me in.
They're needing a right
big
back.
Tony Ralston's playing right back. So
Yes, he is indeed. Competition for places there.
there's a big guy up front for Midtjylland, massive Gambian guy.
They were in the Liverpool Champions League group 2 seasons ago and they were alright.
They're very direct. And
Tough
obviously last season with Celtic's vulnerabilities at the back, I don't know, but you would expect a team like Celtic still to be the favourites.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's not looking great, is it? What do you think?
I'm not sure.
It's a struggle,
I'm
isn't
not
it?
sure.
I feel sorry for
It'll be a tough.
It will be
game.
tough.
I do feel for Big Ange. I've got to give him time because that's
Yeah,
an absolute. I mean,
have
definition
to.
of a poison chalice just now. I mean, if Celtic qualify for the Champions League, it'll be a miracle. I mean, let's be honest. With considering how much they've struggled recently with proper good teams, you know, they're struggling just now. But you got to feel for them. I mean, you don't. Obviously, you don't give a shit. But it will be very.
What did
very
you think
interesting.
of the? We spoke about it a wee bit in the podcast, but see, he's got a couple. Who was it?
Oh yes.
Who's the loudest player you've ever played with?
The loudest.
Loudest.
Like in the
Funniest.
dressing room.
Aye. Bit of character.
The craziest guy I've ever experienced in my life is Craig Curran.
Right, Karen rings. He was at Dundee, striker.
Dundee, he was up at Ross.
Ross County, yeah, that's right, aye.
That guy he's built different. He's a nutter. Absolute nutter.
Is it playing against him?
No, he was at Dundee United.
Oh, of course,
right.
yeah.
Oh my god, man! Never seen anything like it.
What sort of stuff?
Oh
Just
no, I
been-
can't tell you that.
Ah, come on.
No. Nah, he was just a lunatic, man. He was a lunatic.
Longest in the that's inappropriate. Longest
That's
in the shower. That's shocking. I made that one up. What's the biggest like kind of rollicking that you've had off a coach or even that you've seen somebody else?
To be honest with you, I can't really think.
Are you too good? Do you
Nah.
do you want to do one as a pet?
I think you just zone out sometimes when
Right.
someone's going.
I can
off
see
their
Robbie
head at
Nielsen
you.
losing his head, but then again, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I can see him going a bit mad.
Sometimes I think it's good to zone out. when that's happening.
But it's things of managers like that. Certain players will benefit from a bollocking, and certain players will take nothing from it.
Yeah.
Same like somebody down around the shoulder and stuff. If you have a chat with a manager, do you perform off being screamed and shouted at, or are you an arm around the shoulder type?
To be honest, if I need to be told, Sam, you're shite. Like,
but I suppose you know yourself, don't you? I think that's one of the big things, especially having been at Celtic and stuff. You will know yourself.
I see a lot of the older pros when they're talking about like footballers coming through, they're saying like the young guys are soft. They can't take a shouting in that. Yeah. But you're still young, and obviously you're saying that you can. Is it maybe the next generation after you, or do you think that that's a myth? Do you think that
that's a myth anyway?
I think it is a bit of a myth.
It's gone from the days of having managers who would just scream and shout for the sake of it, and that was their way of coaching. Like, coaching has moved forward, and looking after. We've talked a lot about looking after players today. Screaming and shouting at somebody, especially a young player, is not good for his development, and people are realising that. I think so.
I think in terms of the softness, it's easy probably to become soft at these bigger clubs because everything's done for you, everything's put on a plate.
Right.
You don't really have to kind of fend for yourself at all, which is why I think putting them into the B teams is really good. Mm-hmm. It's going to toughen up the young lads.
He hates
I like it for the. Listen here. I get it for the Celtic and Rangers players' development. For them, it's going to be great, but I'm not keen on the idea because, as per usual, we're facilitating the big two at all cost. And what's doing it? A wee bit of money.
Yep.
Paying all the clubs. They literally paid their way in.
I love that.
We all moaned about the Super League, and that was just money. No, listen, but again, I think with any money we've made from the Euro should get put into youth football and stuff, because it is. I mean, some of the talent, because we keep losing so many talented players at that kind of level, leaving pro youth. I mean, look at Billy Gilmore, had to go down south, and now I think genuinely could be one of the best midfielders in the world in a few years' time. I think he's that good.
You played against Billy as well in the Youth Cup final. He gets subbed at half time, Billy Gilmore.
Yeah, he did. He was really young though at the time.
15 he was, wasn't he?
15,
could you tell then, playing against him, he would go to do something?
To be honest with you, he was talked up for the game, but we were all like, we're 18, 19, and you're playing against someone who's like maybe just turned 15. It's like
in an old firm final.
Doesn't matter how good a player you are.
Yeah. But he's so good. I love him so much. He's going to be brilliant. What a player he's going to be. Right.
That's
us. Got to cover. Sam, anything else we've got to cover?
No,
any questions for Dev?
I know I was going to say, if you get any questions for us, we can finish it on that.
We put you on the spot now. How do you want to ask me? Dear me.
I'm sorry, I've got no questions, lads.
We're just still useless, me and you.
Pretty useless.
I love what you're doing.
Thanks very much, mate.
We'll have to do something else again. I'm looking forward to it.
No, this has been good. I've enjoyed this. Maybe get you back on and we'll just talk a wee bit more about just football in general.
Sure.
Career, but that's us, lads.
Nice.
Great fun. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks very much. See you later. Subscribe, all that good stuff. And obviously check Sam out in the comments below as well. Try and get him his subscribers up on YouTube.
Yes, please. We've got many.
So he can catch up with us.
And then we'll cut ties completely.
See you later. Bye.